Welcome to Igniting Change, Finding Your Fire, a weekly podcast with Meena Puri, an Ayurvedic practitioner and spiritual teacher who brings the ancient, time-tested wisdom of Ayurveda in this time of great upheaval and global ascension to inspire you to the next level of your spiritual evolution. She will discuss all topics related to your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Are you ready to be free of all suffering and soar to your heart's calling? Hi everyone. Happy spring equinox. Today's Sunday. I'm recording it on the spring equinox day. Not sure when you will be listening to it, but so I wish you a beautiful new beginning. And God knows we all need new beginnings. And so spring is in the air. I'm excited. So today's topic is kind of a loaded topic. You know, we're talking about boundaries, walls, vulnerability. And speaking of which, this is like the third time that I'm doing the podcast. First two times, because it's such a heavy topic, I'm trying to figure out where to begin. And I still don't have a good place where to begin. So I'm just going to begin whatever comes to my mind. And hopefully you can follow my train of thought. So the way I have talked about boundaries in the way of self-love, for me, the boundary is when there is self-love, self-honor, self-value, self-recognition. When you have this, when you have a deeper connection with yourself, this naturally allows us to place boundaries. These are energetic boundaries. So we carry that, our deeper connection, it changes the level of our vibration, and our outer world simply responds to what we are experiencing internally. Okay, so I lean towards that because for me, when the boundaries are created out of self-love, those boundaries are flexible. There's room to adjust. There's room for conversation. There's room for negotiation. And why that is important? Because the point of boundaries is for deeper connection with ourselves and with others. It is not to close others off, because that's called isolation, right? And that's why many times, many of us have created such boundaries that we have felt isolated. And I know I have done that, not knowing. So boundaries are here to protect us and protect others. But walls, when the boundary becomes a wall, it can block others from connecting with us, and it can block us from connecting to others. And that's really not what the point of boundaries was to begin with. So this is a this is a big, deep topic because it has to do with vulnerability. And when we're talking about vulnerability, boy, resistance shows up in the most strongest way, right? Because to be vulnerable is to put the guns down, so to speak, to let the guard down. And when there is not a deeper connection with our own inner resources and inner strength, what that means, we don't feel strong enough to fall apart. So what do? We put a wall around us. We think it's a boundary, but the only way to recognize is when you're beginning to feel so isolated. When you begin to say things like, I'm just a private person. And you'll know when you feel like, that sense of the belonging isn't there. But the deep longing to belong is there, but we don't understand how we create our own isolation. So let's connect some dots here. So if you are a highly accomplished, successful woman, chances are that you have overcome a few obstacles in your life, right? And and chances are that you have also had a few heartbreaks. So I take that back. We don't have to be successful. We don't, anybody can go through a lot of hardships in life. Anybody can have a heartbreak. But women who are very strong, very highly accomplished, there is a part of them that they may have kept at bay in order to kind of do life. So I know that I have done that. After a heartbreak, many times there's a built-in mechanism from the body that says never again. I'm never going to get myself in that position again. I'm never going to be hurt again. And I know for myself, it's not a conscious choice or a decision I made, but it was made. Subconsciously, I made it. I wasn't aware of it. Okay. And so when I was challenged to that, there's a mask on, or there's a protection, I was so confused, because I thought, seriously, I've spent my entire life, peeling away the mask. I do nothing but inner work. How can you say that to me? But it depends on in the situation and when you are being challenged. So again, when I talk about, exploring the depths, because it's not, the inner work is not a one-shot deal. We may be vulnerable a lot, but maybe there's that tiny bit that is still left, that is still saying, I'm just good with the status quo. I like being comfortable. I don't want to get hurt. So, and I have done that until I realized that this subconscious protection, I talked about energy. It creates an energy. It's an energetic boundary around you that it's very difficult for you to see yourself, because we all have our shadow side. The more we know, the more we don't know, right? The more we know, less we know. So it sometimes takes another person to see it, because you're so inside of it that you cannot see it. So this subconscious protection, it keeps us unreachable. It makes it difficult for others and us to connect with others. So I want to make one more point here. When I talk about this reciprocal connection back and forth, that actually is when we are in our sovereignty. So when we are in sovereignty, we are able to connect to ourselves. We are able to connect to others. The whole point of boundaries is to have better, improved relationships. The whole point of boundaries is to connect deeply with others, so we can really see others for who they are, and they can see us for who we are, so we're not enmeshed together. Okay, but what ends up happening, that the boundaries that we thought we created for deeper connections, they actually end up leaving us isolated. So that's something to think about. So I'm going to say that again. Boundaries are meant for deeper connections. Boundaries are there so we can have deeper connection. If you are not feeling in deeper connection with others, or if you're feeling isolated, that's the time to look at, is this a boundary or has this become a wall? Okay. So to put a wall around us to protect us is a natural built-in mechanism, but what we run into that we forget that we had placed a wall around us. So years go by, we don't even need that anymore. We may have healed, but that little bit of that energetic wall is there because we forgot to remove it. So I started to sense like an energetic periphery around me. When I sensed that, and I'm like, oh my God, that's what it is. So I was able to pull that energy back into my heart. So it really was another opportunity to expand my heart without those boundaries around me. And it was very freeing. It was a deep inner shift that I didn't know that that's what it would feel like. So that's what I'm alluding to. So the clue is to notice, how are you feeling? Are you feeling in deep connection with others? Are you feeling separated? Is there a longing to belong? And you may feel like, sure, you're an open person, you're an open book, you have no boundaries, everybody knows you. And all of that is true. I'm just talking about just the last little bit, the energetics that we have not yet brought into our heart and healed. Okay. So another point that I want to make, that when we become unhurtable, no one is going to hurt me, we also become unlovable or unconnectable. A wall is a wall is a wall. Nothing can get through, right? And the truth is, we can't pain-proof our life. As one of my friend would say, you can't cover your ass every time, right? Life is going to get you. You're going to get screwed over. People are going to hurt you. I'm sure we have done things to hurt others. So we cannot pain-proof our life. We're going to get hurt. We're going to get screwed over. So why bother? So why not play fully? Why not open our heart fully? And the other next point I want to make, which I alluded to earlier, is when we feel weak or not sure, right? We hold it all together because we have to hold it all together. We hold it all together mentally. We armor up. We pull we pull all the stops because no one is going to do us in. No one is going to hurt us. When we continue to do the inner work, we continue to have that deeper connection with who we are. What happens that fills us from the inside? We begin to tap into a reservoir of inner strength and inner resilience that we may not have before. So when traveling the inner terrains, we begin to tap into the fact and the knowing that we are actually complete, whole, and our deeper self has everything that it needs. Our soul can never be damaged or hurt or broken. So when we connect with our soul, that connection feeds us on every level. When we feel that kind of a strength, now we are strong enough to fall apart. Now we are strong enough to be vulnerable. So, it's nice to tell somebody, you have armor, you're armored up, and you need to become more vulnerable. Just because that kind of a like a comment, it doesn't serve anybody. It doesn't mean anything. It has to come from the inside out. So The way to become vulnerable is to have a deeper connection with yourself, is begin to fill yourself up. When you feel that even if someone hurts you, someone does something happens, you're not worried, because you know you're going to be okay. You know that you're going to be able to take care of yourself. So in order, we have to be strong enough. We have to feel strong enough to fall apart. I cannot tell somebody, be vulnerable. It is something that they have to come to realize themselves. So the inner strength, more strong we become, it's okay for us to be vulnerable. We can let out. We can show our true vulnerable heart. We can talk about our weaknesses. Like I'm showing you that I had no idea that I had created this invisible, energetic boundary around me. But uh, somebody else could see it. I'm attending a program, it's called Bold and Visible. And she said, no, I see something more. I see something more. I'm like, seriously, what are you talking about? So I'm just going to kind of summarize these points. Number one, so when you're feeling isolated, separated, then it's time to ask, is this a boundary or a wall? Second, just reminding yourself, thinking about the fact that when we become unhurtable, we also become unapproachable, unlovable. And next point, which I know you're going to remember, we can't cover our ass every time. We can't get ahead of life. We can't pain proof our life. No matter how much inner work we do, no matter how spiritual we get, no matter how much good we spread in the world, and by the way, keep doing that, you'll get hurt, because it's not possible not to. You're human, because we're surrounded by humans. People will hurt you, you'll hurt people. That's just how it goes. So we can't pain proof our life. We're not going to get ahead of life. Okay. And what else did I want to talk about? We are living in times where, gosh, we've been hit in the heart in so many different ways. If not personally, then at least we know somebody who has been really affected by the pandemic and by all the social issues that are going on. They're just so close to our heart, right? So, and we can't pretend that, the pandemic didn't affect me at all. It's not true. It is not true at all. I know it's not true for me, because we have been together with others in their suffering, right? We have all prayed because we have connected. We see ourselves in other people's stories. So vulnerability is a connection. So our world needs our vulnerability. Our world needs our authenticity, our stories, our vulnerability, because it's providing a connection. What else is going to provide the connection, right? And what do we ache for? We ache for a deeper connection. And there's no better way to connect deeply with others than to open your heart. And so what else? And the inner work is so darn convoluted and interesting and never ending. Knowing thyself is something we'll never get done. I know that I have grieved for a sister who passed away a few years ago. actually longer than a few years ago, I thought I had grieved, but I hadn't. And I grieved it all a whole new way when I came across her letter, right? There was something else in there that needed to kind of unlock for me. And we grieve for our lost dreams, lost hopes. Doesn't mean we can't build new ones, always. But we have to be able to be vulnerable about what we have lost to make space for the new to come in, right? We have to get real. What else? I made a few notes here. As I told you, I didn't know how I was going to talk about this topic. So one of the things about vulnerability, I know that we talk about it in so many different ways, is the inner strength, the inner resilience that I already talked about. So when we realize we're strong enough, then we are strong enough to fall apart. Many times it needs another person to see, to create that space, whether it's an individual person, whether it's in a group setting. So you need, in order for us to be vulnerable, we need that protection. You know how somebody, when you're kind of really, really upset by yourself, all of a sudden a friend or a family member comes, they give you a hug, and out of the blue, you start crying? You couldn't have done that by yourself. Because when you feel safe, we become vulnerable. We do need others. We need others for that human connection, especially for those of us who are on the spiritual path, like I am. And, those women out there who are single, people out there who are single, they're doing it all, right? When you're on the spiritual path, you are getting everything you need from the inside. But it cannot replace the human connection. And it cannot replace the connection with others. No amount of spirituality, it can replace the need for connection with another human being. And that's actually the whole point is. That's actually the whole point of spirituality. That's the whole point of boundaries, is to create authentic connection and relationship with others. That provides, it provides us the safety, the warmth, the understanding, the love, the acceptance. We can do a lot of that ourselves too, but there's something special about being in witness by someone else, in knowing what you're going through by someone else, right? So notice in your life whether you have authentic connections like that. Sometimes we can be surrounded by people, but feel very isolated and lonely, right? So these are the kind of things that I want you to start thinking about. And the other thing was, vulnerability doesn't mean that we just, walk around wearing our heart on our sleeve. We have to be protective of our energy. We have to be mindful. We have to be a little bit smart. We have to protect ourselves at the same time. So, we're continuously navigating this area of protection and connection, the self, connection to self and connection with others. So we are, going like this all the time. We are interacting, we are in flow with others. And that's the whole point of creating boundaries. And when the flow is stopped, when there's no flow, when you're feeling stuck, then ask yourself, do you have walls around you that you're not letting anybody in, and you're not letting yourself to go out of that wall? You're not reaching out to others. The stronger we become in our heart, the stronger connection we have with ourselves, the stronger connection we have with spirit, we are strong. We can fall apart because we know how to take care of ourselves. And I love the work of the quantum physics. I love the whole work of the energy, because it makes a whole lot of sense to me. When I do the inner work, I just go into my own inner space, I actually affect change at the very root layer. I'm not very good at thinking about things and I have to make a checklist. I can't do that. So the easiest thing, and actually probably the hardest thing also, is for me to go in and continue to do the inner work, continue to deepen that connection and get to know thyself, right? Like the truest form of yoga, the only form of yoga. That's what yoga is. So to me, then when I've done the work, then it naturally changes my inner environment. So then I can draw into my life what I put out, what the universe reads my vibration to be, it can match it. So anyways, this is a topic that we will continue to discuss in coming months' time. And so, it's food for thought for you. See if you can ask yourself some deep questions and just, be totally authentic and honest with yourself. Is between you and you. This work is very personal. This work is not easy. But I do know that, the deeper connections we have with ourselves, we feel more like ourselves, and we can feel freer and freer in our own body, and we can be free with others, right? So truth shall set us free, truth of connecting to who we are. So these are my thoughts for today. I'm just going to quickly take a glance because I wrote pages about it, and I want to make sure that I at least share with you the highlighted points. Yes, and other thing was our greatest strength. I talked about very successful women who have accomplished a lot. By the way, men are included, anybody really, that we haven't gotten there with ease. That's why I'm talking about women, because we didn't get there with ease. We had to, clear out a few obstacles. We had to really pull our sleeves up and toughen up to make it. And we are strong. Our own strength is what we butt up against. Our own strength can become our own inner ceiling. Our own strength can block us to deep, authentic connection with others. These are heavy words. It took me a while to really get that. So let these thoughts simmer in you and see what you come up with. And what else can I share with you? Again, I think I did mention privacy or isolation. I've done that. I'm a private person, and I am. But did I hide behind it? Because there were walls around me. I wasn't willing to be totally 100% authentic or vulnerable. Not authentic. I think authentic I am. Maybe vulnerable. Because it's scary. It's scary to be vulnerable. So again, it's a process. It's work that we continue to kind of peel away the layers. So that's another point to ponder upon. So I think that's all I have for today. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I know it was a little bit, broken, and that's just how it is. It's just I've had great insights and great breakthrough that I really wanted to share with you. I would love to hear your comments, your comments on vulnerability. I would love to hear if you had any inkling by listening to my talk here, whether you begin to recognize if there's a wall that you have created around you. So I would love to hear your comments. Thank you so much for being here with me, for tuning in. And I look forward to talking with you at the next episode. Thank you for listening to Igniting Change, Finding Your Fire. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and we look forward to being with you next week.